Hi folks, and welcome back to the plot. I've just arrived and we're going to talk about garden anxiety. There's quite a few different kinds of garden anxiety, I think. Quite a few things that can get you stressed and worried, but today I know the garden anxiety that I'm feeling is going to be very familiar to most of you, and that is because I've been away for the weekend. We've been away for like 4 or 5 days, and we went down to Cornwall, Jess and I, and it was really, really nice, really relaxed. But it's been absolutely roasting while we were away, and it's been roasting here on the south coast as well. And so 5 days without seeing the plants, I'm a little bit nervous. I can just see the greenhouse and I think it's okay. But I've just popped up today to have a look. We've got all sorts going on. We've just had a really restful holiday, but now it's action stations because my sister-in-law has moved out of the house, so we're decorating and doing all sorts of not very fun stuff. But the thing I was worried about, of course, was the chili peppers. The tomatoes have exploded already. Everything is looking okay, which is, I think, a relief. Just as we were on the way, we were sort of leaving to go to Cornwall, and I was like, we've got to stop in at the allotment, and I'm just going to give everything a really good soaking. And I'm so glad I did. There was a lot of water in the bottom of the trays, but I knew that if it got really sunny and really hot in these greenhouses, there might be a bit of risk. So I'm very glad I did that. The tomatoes in here are looking a little bit cooked. Whoa. We'll have a proper look. They're not too bad, actually, but they are sort of looking a little leggy. This one's flowering already. What the heck is going on there? What is wrong with you? Maybe overwatered a little bit? I'm not too sure. Oh, we've got one that's just germinated. Very funny year for the tomatoes. Look at this one. The spoon really taken off. Sweet potatoes are looking a little, I don't know, I think I might get them in a tub or something soon, but there is new growth on here, which is very good. Tomatoes all up here have, I think, doubled in size just over the weekend. Okay, I think we're okay in here. Have a little look at the polytunnel, but it is shocking how much the grass has grown over one weekend, and the beds. What on earth? There were maybe 1 or 2 scattered weeds in here, but it did not look like this. The weeds have absolutely gone boom. Peas have gone boom too, which is good news. Hot bin's looking hot. I was up here a little while ago. Oh yeah, that's very hot. I could see the heat haze coming off the top of this thing, and I opened it up and it was 70 degrees inside the compost probe. So it's really, wow. I've only been gone a weekend. Look at the grass. It's turned into an absolute meadow. I did do quite a few things as well. There's a few little bits to show you, but first I want to just check in the polytunnel. Look at this. Look at this. I think this one might just be the blackbirds. But yes, let's just look in here, see if anything else has died from the heat. Okay. Yeah, a little bit of wilting. Chili peppers look okay though, which is really good. The peas are looking all sorts of weird, and the re-sowing doesn't look like it's germinated. Sometimes you just got to have a little dig around, haven't you? Okay, they've not rotted. Maybe they've dried out. I think I might end up just putting this out and hoping for the best. Leeks survived. Somehow a lot of this cabbage hasn't bolted, despite it must have been cooking in here this weekend. So that's good. Oh my goodness. The lettuce has really hearted up. I can't believe it's just been a few days. All of the rocket, unfortunately, has bolted. Not a big surprise. It was just starting to bolt, actually. But it's a really mild rocket, this one. There's a few radish that I've let... Oh my God. I've let go. Is this still edible? I'm not too sure. I will probably harvest those today, but... Mostly good news, isn't it? One little salad tray looking a little bit dry and a few bolted rocket is fine. All of the chili peppers, that's really what, that's what I was worried about. my pride and joy, the one thing I really care about, the chilies, and they're looking okay. Something else is looking okay. A day or so before we left, I planted out the sweet peas, and they were looking, I don't know if you remember, these were in the polytunnel, and they were looking really quite anemic, and I just kind of bit the bullet. It's warmed up enough. I mean, these are quite hardy anyway, but it's warmed up to the point that these will probably start growing. and hopefully be able to outcompete any slug damage. And they are growing. I know they don't look amazing, but these have grown a lot since I put them out. I can just see. I actually planted these a little bit far away from the support, but you can see lots of new bushy growth, which is a good sign. So we've got sort of Steve's Chelsea collection over here, and then the old-fashioned on the right there. There's a little cosmos that I planted out. I planted out a few other little bits and bobs. I put some trays under these because a few of these were really starting to dry out. The potatoes really wanted it. And I planted out a little row of salads and some flowers in the big bed, and they have survived the weekend. I really thought that I would come back and these would all be completely decimated by the slugs, so this is fantastic. The nasturtium, peach Melbourne nasturtium has gone, okay, let's flower. This is a little sulphur cosmos, and then we've got another one here at the back. I've pinched out the top of that to hopefully encourage it to get a little more bushy. The one, oh, wow. I was gonna say there's one other thing I want to look at right back there, and I can see from here, it's growing well. Oh, there's so much weird stuff to show you. What is going on? But yes, the peas, that is what I saw from a distance. Look at these, these are the Alderman, and it looks like the support netting is going to work perfectly. They are growing quite upright. I was hoping that they would go at an angle with the support, but I'm sure as they get a little bit taller, they will end up leaning on that support, and hopefully as they start to grow up and the pea pods start to droop down, it will allow really easy harvesting. There is so much grass growth in this manure, but the onions that I put in the back here, they're looking okay. Just a few little spare red onions, and I thought these would all get dug up straight away, but they're okay. This is where that gutter of peas was meant to go, and I was going to put it on another set of kind of trellis that went the other way, but obviously they're quite behind, so I'm not sure whether to just plant them out and see what happens, even with the ones in there that haven't germinated, but we'll see. Lots and lots of space in the beds. This one is just kind of ticking over. That red onion, I kind of want to see what that is doing, but let's leave it. The weeds have just exploded. It's such a shame. This was such a nice no-dig bed until the foxes came along and dug it all up. Look at that. There's some wild fungus growing in here, and a lot of bindweed as well. This is Fort Fox, where we've got the carrot sowings and the onions. It does look like there were 2 sowings in here that look like they have just completely failed, so I might redo those. And you can see, what can you see? There is some horrible bindweed in there. The onions still not growing, unfortunately. It's possible that they don't like this bed, or it's possible they were just really quite root bound. Oh, goodness me, the weeds as well. I think there is some carrot germination. Yes, definitely some carrots starting to pop up, but I could do with a really good weed. The whole plot just needs a bit of TLC. The grass has gone wild everywhere. I had a really good comment suggestion to put some cold frames up this end of the polytunnel by the door, and I dragged this one out and it fits pretty much perfectly. You can see there's some nice gladioli at the moment. I didn't plant these were here when I took on the plot, but I might move those somewhere else, and this would be perfect for a lot of the brassicas and slightly cooler, you know, crops that don't want to be in the polytunnel or the greenhouse at this time of year. And I can put some netting over it and it will just be really good. There's a little bit of comfrey over here as well. Once again, this was on the plot. I imagine this probably isn't Bocking 14, but I do want to keep a comfrey patch. Whether or not I'm going to keep it here, I'm not too sure. But I do want to do something with that. And the asparagus, look! The asparagus is doing its thing. Really, really good to see this. It's already starting to turn into fronds, but these bits are basically like the leaf, you know, so they're going to do all the photosynthesizing, give that energy to the roots and the crown, and that's why you don't want to harvest it for the first year or 2. But they're looking really good. They've all taken, every single one is regrowing, which is a really good sign. I just love these potato pots as well. think I'm going to get a couple more of those. In fact, there might be a couple at home. It would be good to just have them all the way along there. So yes, that's the fun stuff, that's the relief, that's a quick walking tour, but I do need to actually do something. I've only got an hour or 2 up here, but I think it's either a case of planting a few bits out or sowing some new seeds. I do first just want to water these salads, see if they make it. Just give these a really quick soak. Then I'm going to have a little look more closely at the seedlings in the greenhouse, see if there's anything ready to go out, ready that needs to be planted, and then have a think about what needs sowing. You can see in here there's actually loads of space I've taken out on this shelf. These ones just so this lot could get a little bit more light. Loads of good stuff on the top and down right at the bottom. A lot of my brassicas hidden away in the slightly cooler part of the greenhouse. Looking really good actually, a little bit thirsty, but they are growing quite well. I've had really slow growth on my brassicas this year. The compost trials, lots of interesting stuff there. I need to record a little progress segment on there, don't look too closely. I'm saving it for the video. There's lots of other stuff which I'm just saying has failed now. This herb tray, it's just worth plucking out those, putting them into little cells, and then I've got some more space. There's loads and loads of sowing I need to do. Similar up here, I think, although the basket flower just starting to pop out, but there's marigolds have definitely failed. The Celine needs to kind of come out. And these ones are the flowers I've just started planting out. I did do a quick little compost trial actually between Silvergrow and Heart of Eden compost. And look, you can just start to see ones on the left doing much better than the ones on the right here, the wormwood. And way too early to conclude anything, but this one on the left is the Silvergrow, and I would say it's the wormwood at least doing slightly better than the Heart of Eden. But don't read into it too much, it's just one little pot. The courgettes, this is what I was really wondering, is could these go out? And I think oh, these ones are looking close. These ones are looking close. The beauty of having these big cells is that you don't have to pot up. You can get a courgette or a squash out from just growing in one of these. So they're close. Another few days and I think I could put those out and hopefully they'll be able to resist some slugs. Same for the cabbages. These, cabbages? They're not cabbages, JB. Cucumbers, these are cucumbers. Looking really, really good. So I'm pleased to see something is growing correctly at the right speed for once. The tomatoes looking a little bit leggy, a little bit unhealthy, but that's just kind of par for the course this year, isn't it? Not too sure what's going on with some of them, but they are moving in the right direction at least. So good news, nothing urgently that needs planting out. That's really what I wanted to check. The brassicas do need a bit of work. I found some spring onions hidden in the polytunnel as well. They need to go out. But I think what I really want to do today is get some of the really heat-loving stuff sown. So a lot of the squashes I didn't do yet. Did I not do the squashes? Yes, I haven't done my winter squashes yet. I've just done my courgettes. So it's time to do some squashes. And I haven't done any beans yet. And actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about a few of the gardens that we went to on holiday. Just shifted you around so you can see what's going on and getting this back in its rightful home in the greenhouse, the sowing station. I love it. But yes, I got a few seeds. Where are they? I consider myself generally pretty good at resisting the urge to get seeds, but I saw a few and I couldn't resist. You know when you just can't resist? The first, this one, Dwarf Borlotti. As you know, bit of an aversion to faffing in the garden and setting up plant supports. So I saw dwarf and I immediately picked it up and put it in the basket. Couldn't resist. I love the idea of dwarf varieties. I know you get a little bit of a reduced crop, but the idea of just having lower maintenance stuff. And Borlotti is something I tried to grow a little bit last year. I've got some saved seed, but just quite a lot of work. And the idea of just having a few dwarf ones, these are, I think, worth growing just for how gorgeous they look more than anything. Apparently you can start these in April, but I'm sure they will be fine now. I got a new little lettuce, just a kind of hearting romaine lettuce type thing, because I don't have any of these at the moment. And another exciting one, Spigarello. Now this, I think, is very similar to the Minestra that Jesse at Plot 37 has been talking about a lot this year. Where is my Minestra? It is looking okay. It's this one in here. Looking okay, a little bit kind of leggy, reaching for the light, but that's because I put it in the shade deliberately. Broccoli rabe, not very good germination, but yeah, these are quite tricky. I've not had a good home for these. I don't want to put them out in the ground just yet because I think they'll get slugged. Beetroot. All of my beetroot is growing so slowly this year. And this is all a bit thirsty. But yes, my Minestra is growing well. I've got loads, too much to be honest, but a lot of people have been kind of saying they can't get seeds for Minestra, but they can get seeds for Spigarello. And I thought it'd be interesting to grow both and just see how they compare, how they kind of look, because I think Spigarello is quite similar to Minestra. I think Minestra is like a type of Spigarello. I'm not too sure. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a very cool looking, apparently very tasty brassica. So yes, not many seeds, but you might have noticed they've got a specific Eden project thing on them. And I'm gonna make up some potting mix and then just while I'm sowing, just chat to you a little bit about the gardens. I think that would be nice. I did have someone ask me the other day if I'd stopped using Silver Grow. Not quite sure what gave that impression. I have been still using it and I need to buy some more. I'm still so far a fan. I know a lot of mixed experiences this year. Lots of mixed comments, but also can you see me there? Lots of people also saying it's worked just fine for them this year. So I think my feeling is it's more of a weather situation. So beans, the main thing, I'm really, really excited about these. I really chanced these last year. I went quite early, and to be honest, it worked quite well, but just one of those things. I haven't sown them this year just because everything's been a bit slow, but these are so gorgeous. These are the Kalima bean. Once again, this is a dwarf, my favourite kind of crop, low maintenance. And one of the reasons that I've not been too anxious about having so many empty beds is because this year I want a whole bed of just these dwarf green beans. They are so, so good. Kalima, quite hard to get in this country. I was kindly sent them by Audrey from Real Food Comes Dirty last year, and these are all self-saved seed. I do still have a few from the seed packet as well, actually, but really excited to do those. And another one that Audrey sent, the Christmas Lima. I'm going to do a few of these. These are a climber, and what I might do is, because I'm lazy, where I've had all that failed pea germination, I might just sow a few of these in the gaps, or sort of consolidate the peas into one area and then have a few of these elsewhere. But we've got time to get that support sorted. There's another one as well, this one. This is a seed I couldn't No, this is a seed I couldn't resist. It just looks amazing. The yin yang bean is kind of this cool black and white colour. No idea how it's going to taste, but we're going to give it a go. And I've got this slightly unusual seed tray that I've not used before. I think Jess bought these for her sweet peas, but then they turned out to be a bit too small. So it's 5 by 8. Quite a lot of cells, but they're just sort of like mini root trainer ones. Hopefully not too much effort to get in the ground. I think with something like this, you can just do a little trench and then pot everything up. You know, I've been complaining about all the dibbing. I've only got one of those, and the rest, I think we'll just have to go into these kind of standard, slightly larger, the 4 by 7 trays. And I'm not too sure how many I'm going to do. I'm going to do as many as I feel like doing. Where can you go? Where's going to be good? It becomes more and more challenging to film in this greenhouse as the season goes on, probably for obvious reasons. But yes, gardens, right? So I wanted to just talk about this a little bit. Something I've mentioned on Potty Mouth before is that, like, my background, my introduction to gardening is not from gardening, if that makes sense. So I'm a big lover of like nature and the natural world, and that's kind of what got me into enjoying time outdoors, spending a lot of time on nature reserves, doing butterfly transects, volunteering for conservation work, you know, species conservation and habitat conservation and that kind of thing. So when we started recording Potty Mouth live, I remember people couldn't believe it that I didn't watch Gardener's World. You know, I'd never been to, I don't know, an RHS garden, Wisley or Kew or anything like that. It's not really in my, I don't know, like my gardening background or my gardening tastes. I very much was interested in getting an allotment, actually because I gave up the outdoors job and I took a desk job, and I still wanted to be outdoors, you know, just in nature, experiencing it despite the hay fever. And anyway, the point I'm getting to is that over the last kind of few years, raise you up a little bit so I'm not crouching, my kind of outlook has changed a little bit. To be completely honest, I think unfairly, I had a bit of a dim view of just traditional quote-unquote gardening, you know, Monty Don, I don't know, Alan Titchmarsh, like ornamental planting, ornamental gardens. It never really did it for me. You know, I've always been interested a little bit in wildlife gardening. My parents always had quite a lot of a wildlife garden thing going on, but, you know, they couldn't get me out there. Like, they couldn't get me out there looking at it with them. Like, when my mum kind of saw that I'd started a YouTube channel about gardening, she just could not believe it, you know. But yes, over time, especially as we've started doing a lot more flowers in the back garden, I'm kind of coming around to it, you know, and I can appreciate a formal garden a little bit more. I think the first time I went to a formal garden was April last year. April or May, March, kind of early spring. I was with Niall from Niall Gardens. We were in Wales, and I can't actually remember the name of the garden, but it was so cute. It really, really won me over, and I was like, I get it now, you know, I get why we used to go on family holidays to Cornwall, and, you know, my parents would go off to visit some of the gardens and that kind of thing, and it's just my idea of hell, you know, just so boring. Dropped a bean. And it's only now in my 30s, actually, that I've grown to kind of get it and understand what is going on there. So that brings me on to this holiday, and the first time that we were in Cornwall and thought, let's try some gardens. Jess was quite up for it because, you know, she's the main home gardener now. And so we went to a couple. I'm going to do a bit of a succession with these Kalima beans. So I've just done one tray here, but quite a lot. And 2 in each, which might be a little bit much, but there is a decent deep reservoir here, and these things grow densely quite happily. Last year they were fine growing as bushes. The only slight downside to the bush varieties, obviously, is that they can be a little bit trickier to harvest. You've got to get right kind of down there, you know, to get in. Oh, I need a tray. Where are they all? I just bought a load up in the other greenhouse. I've somehow misplaced the trays or used them all. Oh, this one here. I should label that while I remember, shouldn't I? That would be a good idea. What are they? And I might actually not do many of these other ones. These are quite big cells. I think I'm going to do half the yin yang and then half the Christmas Lima. The Christmas Lima get really big. But yes, so we found ourselves looking at gardens in Cornwall, and we wanted to go to Land's End. And we visited a little garden near Land's End, and we went to the Eden Project, which is kind of like, you know, it's a bit of a flagship. It's the sort of place where it's a bit more of an attraction, more than just a garden. And I must say, 40 quid a ticket for the Eden Project. Whoa, blew me away. That was a bit of a shocker. But we went to the Eden Project and a little garden called Trewiddy. And the little garden was about £8 a ticket, and I have to say, we enjoyed the small garden so much more than the Eden Project. The Eden Project was really cool. I have been when, you know, I was much younger and my parents took me. I must have been, I don't know, 14, 15, something like that. And it is cool. The Eden Project is cool. Obviously, the main attractions are those biomes, the Mediterranean biome and the rainforest biome. And the rainforest biome is undeniably amazing. You know, the size of some of the trees that they've got in there are absolutely staggering. But the bit I found myself most drawn to at Eden Project was all the edibles. Obviously, it kind of makes sense, you know, as an allotment gardener. But it was a real, I don't know, it kind of surprised me that the thing that really, you know, sparked a joy and got me excited as we were walking around was their little allotment section, their crop section. By the cafe, they had like this bank of calendula that they were using in the cafe, loads of beetroot and chard and things like that growing that all went into, you know, you could go and eat. Oh, these look amazing. This is specifically why I bought these, just because they look so good, but how could I resist? They look awesome. Their allotment section, I must admit, did not impress. My allotment actually looked better than a lot of their allotment section. They did have some cool, like, crops around the world, little bits and bobs, lots of kind of a few Asian crops like ginger and coriander that I'm not doing. Massive banana plants, obviously. But yeah, their chilies didn't look as good as mine, which did put a big smile on my face. And it just interested me to see about my own tastes in gardening, and I think what I've grown to appreciate, I've double sown these, and I think I'm just going to single sow them, is what I know, you know. So how to explain? The bits that I really enjoyed were the native wildflowers, the native trees, the apple trees, the crops, the allotment section, all that kind of thing. And I've just realised that that is exactly what I appreciate in gardens generally. More often than not, it's the native plants that I've come to know and love from spending lots of time on nature reserves and doing conservation. That's the stuff for me that really sparks joy. So native wildflowers, native plants, and crops, because that's what I know and love. And there is something that really sparks joy for me about seeing people just growing food. And it was really cool, I must say, at the Eden Project to see it all being used. But I did feel at the Eden Project especially, a lot of the outdoor gardens could have just had way more care and attention. A lot of it was sort of, it felt like a placeholder. It was like non-native shrubs, just like the sort of thing that you might have as, not like laurel or cherry laurel, but just really gross shrubs that you might see in someone's front garden that they've just planted for screening or something like that. Whereas Trewiddy, it was so small. It was infinitely smaller, and it was quite a small garden with a winding path that took you forwards and backwards and through like meadow glades. And they had their big thing was a lot of actual not native plants. So their big thing was camellia bushes. But they did have some fantastic specimens. Camellia, rhododendron, which is something I generally don't like, but it was in flower and it looked really good. And the other one was magnolia. They had some 100-year-old or hundreds of year old magnolia trees, and it was pretty impressive. The size of them, I didn't know they got that big. Yin Yang, and the other one is Lima, Christmas Lima. But I just thought it was interesting that I think both of us, Jess and I, enjoyed our time at the Trewiddy Gardens near Land's End much more. It was just, it felt like a much more densely packed experience. We were walking really slowly through every path, pointing out like bits and bobs and bits and bobs. The Eden Project, the paths were more like, you're going from place to place. They had one really nice bit which was called the Pollinator Path, which once again was, well, it wasn't that impressive actually. I was expecting to see lots more wildflowers, lots more about that. They had one section that blew me away, and it was a plant called Meadow Foam, or Meadow something. You kind of come around to it and you can hear this like almost deafening sound of honeybees that were all over it, having the absolute time of their life, which it was just amazing. But I just thought it was I kind of learned a lot about myself and my taste for gardening, and I'm sure they will continue to evolve. But it just seems like it's really driven by what I know and what I already love, and have it's what I'm able to appreciate in a garden. Going around a rainforest biome, undeniably cool, very awesome, but you're not going around and going, oh, it's that, it's that, oh, we've got that in the garden, or oh, we could grow that next year because we don't have a rainforest biome in our back garden. But yeah, my first sort of, I just thought it was interesting to share. It's not necessarily about allotmenting, but I find it quite interesting how my own tastes are changing, from someone who wouldn't be really seen dead in a formal garden. Not for any particular reason, it's just never been something for me. I'd rather take a nature reserve walk any day. But one of those things that's starting to change as I age, and I just thought it was quite interesting. But that's beans done. I've been absolutely rambling on, so I'm going to do a little bit more and show you what I've done. Complete and utter lie, I've just turned the camera off and straight back on again, because the other thing that I wanted to talk about was holidays, and the title of the video and the whole thumbnail and everything is about garden anxiety. And when we were going around Cornwall, there were a few times where I couldn't quite remember how long it had been since we'd last been there. We quite often bomb down, because I've got a load of friends who live in Cornwall, so we quite often bomb down and just stay with them for literally like a night or two in that kind of thing. And I was trying to remember when was the last time we had a holiday and did that kind of thing? And it's been absolutely ages, and Jess gave me one of those looks when I asked her the question. It's just like, we don't go on holiday very much anymore, or she goes without me because I'm stressed about the garden. Or she asked me at a really bad time and I've got a to-do list as long as my arm, a greenhouse to build, a polytunnel to build. And quite often, we just don't do holidays because of the garden. For the longest time, my holidays have basically been at the allotment. And kind of for better or worse, obviously I do love it. You see how much joy the allotment brings me, but I do wonder if maybe the balance has been slightly off. We've not been abroad since 2018. In 2018 we went to Amsterdam, and this year I'm going to Italy later on for quite a long time, and I'm terrified. I'm really nervous about leaving the garden for so long. I need to find someone to come and water it. I do have lots of close neighbours who would probably help me out, but it's interesting. I chat to one of my patrons, Chris. He goes on holiday quite a lot, and he sends me kind of updates about, people he's asked to look after his chilies and that kind of thing. And it's a big problem for a lot of people, isn't it? You know, what do you do if you go abroad? And for me, the solution has been, well, don't. Just go away for, like we've just done it, only a weekend at a time. But I do think the allotment is moving more towards being finished, dare I say finished, in terms of the big projects. Obviously an allotment is never finished, but I'm hoping the only infrastructure project now is the shed, which is going to be a winter project and hopefully won't interfere with any kind of holidays or that kind of thing. Look at it, that thing back there looming. But yes, garden anxiety. I think the thing I'm trying to get at really is don't let it get to you. You know, don't let it get in the way of your life. I think that's probably not an issue for most people. I can be a bit slightly high-strung, I guess, about the allotment, slightly too worried sometimes, but it's very easy for everything to get on top of you. And when you've got, you know, 5 or 6 jobs that you're behind on, and someone's talking about, you know, going on holiday for a week in the height of the season, you know, May or June, I'm just, no, don't, what do you mean? Talking about holiday? No, there's so many things I need to do, and you know, if I miss the potting up of the peppers or anything, it can really impact on the majority of the season. So for a long time I've been about kind of forward planning and that kind of thing, and taking a little bit of time off work before a holiday, which is exactly what I did this week, and it pays off dividends because it meant I was able to get all my peppers done and all that kind of thing. But yeah, garden anxiety is a big thing for me, you know, it really is. And as always, I think it helps to share these things. Sometimes spending a bit of time in the greenhouse sowing and putting things on, it just hits perfectly. I'm feeling so good. Just the right amount of things to do, so it's not too stressful. Feeling just so chill and so relaxed now. I've come outside because there's something I've seen which made me punch the air. I'm so excited. I did want to mention as well, in here I did a few sowings, some really healthy lettuce that's been planted out, and I direct sowed a few quick crops. I can see, I think that's a line of radish there that's just popped up in amongst the weeds, and as soon as I sowed it, one of the foxes came and dug a massive hole. I think these might be lettuce, these tiny little ones. So there's a few things growing in amongst the weeds. Broad beans are looking really healthy as well. I don't know if I've shown you this colossal volunteer aquilegia. It's one of the few things in this bed at the moment. I just saw it coming up and left it. I think this has actually been there for years and years. It just never normally flourishes quite like that, which maybe is a good sign about the nutrition of the bed. I have just given the peas an extra little line of support. They're looking really, really good. But over here, oh, so pleased. It's just down here. Can you spot it? Any botanists seen it yet? This one just here is yellow rattle. Somehow a bit of seed has survived, and I've got not one but 2 plants there. Not amazing, but very interesting to note that it's kind of surrounded by vetch, much smaller grass, probably much more nutrient poor little patch of land. And for the longest time I had ambitions to basically convert under the orchard area, it's not really an orchard, but under the fruit trees into basically a wildflower meadow. You know, I was talking earlier about how I've taken my kind of gardening inspiration from nature reserves, and I wanted to have a little patch of that here, and it's been an absolute pain. Trying to get yellow rattle established is kind of it can be the first step on a long-term kind of meadow creation project. And I started up with seeds, it did nothing. Then I went to plugs, it didn't really establish. So then I kind of went back to seeds, and I've had 1 or 2 that have germinated, but generally I've kind of slightly given up on it. And then I've just seen those, and I'm like, oh, that means there might be some more in here. I did sow a few meadow plants. There's 3 bamboo stakes in there. These are all growing much slower than their surroundings, and I can't remember which one's which, but there's one just here, much lower, so I might have to get in here with the strimmer. But I think there's a good chance that there might be 1 or 2 more yellow rattle plants in here. But hopefully, if we give them a bit of time, they might pop up, and I'm really hoping they can get established. There is this very weird looking, I don't know if maybe that's a cornflower or something like that. There's something that's come up. It's a bit strange. I did as well sow a plant in here called shepherd's needle, which is very unusual. I'm not 100% sure what it looks like, but it's quite a rare arable weed, and one of my colleagues who works on sites of special scientific interest gave me a handful of seed. He works on the Isle of Wight, where it grows in his back garden. He's got it established, and it's borderline endangered, so if that is shepherd's needle, that would be quite cool. Like I say, I'd sort of given up on this a little bit, but to see a little bit of yellow rattle, very encouraging. It means it can just start to get established. So what I will do is take those seeds when they're ready and scatter them across this area, and we'll hope. I'm desperately looking to see some more, but I can't see any. But we'll hope it continues to establish. But yes, in the greenhouse, what have I been up to? I have been busy, and this is pretty much full now, and I've potted up all these pretty pathetic looking brassicas. These were sown quite a long time ago, and they've just barely moved. So hopefully potting them on will give them a little bit more oomph, and they'll start getting going again. I've done all sorts of salad operations, planted a few little bits out, planted out some spring onions. Look at these wilty ones. Give them their own pots. I'm not sure if they'll survive. But right down here in the salad tray, I've sowed that Frankie seed that I got. Is that how it's pronounced? I don't know, but we'll see. I've redone the White Lisbon as well. I've done about 10 to 15 seeds in each of these cells because the germination has been so bad this year. We've got the dwarf Borlotti, we've got the Kalima beans have been sowed, and we've got the yin yang and the Christmas lima. I absolutely love it when those shelves start to fill up. Really, really pleased. Things are really starting to pick up as well. Obviously it was a bit of, oh God, when I turned up and all the grass has grown, but the broad beans have grown. A lot of the things in the ground are growing now. So I should be very, very positive and happy about that. I think the next big thing for me to do, and something I want to set aside some time to do tomorrow, is a bit more bed prep. The weeds are really starting to take hold. And do you remember I did that whole episode on trying to get all the beds ready at once? And in hindsight, I think that was a bit foolish. Probably should have done it a bit more gradually, bit by bit, left them covered, because I've taken everything off, and I didn't realise I was going to have a really, really slow start to the year. So a lot of the crops just haven't gone in, which means the weeds have just been able to grow freely. You know, I've not been mulching or weeding because there's nothing there. So I need to mulch and weed these now to stop the weeds really taking hold, get hold of them before they start to flower and do their thing. But hopefully you've enjoyed my rambling about gardens today and all that kind of stuff. Thank you ever so much for watching. An extra special thank you to all of my Chili Pepper Tip patrons: Tony, Bill, Pam, Louise, Mel, Michael, Denise, Soxon Garden, Andrew, Sarah, Dorcas, Louise, Angela, and 2 new Chili Pepper Tier patrons. Thank you so much, Andre and Brett. Hopefully I'll see you again in the next one.